Well, a few days ago, the Israeli foreign minister was quoted as saying there was no humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Earlier, my colleague Veronica Pedrosa spoke to Christopher Gunnis, spokesman for the United Nations Relief and Works Agency. He said the idea that there was no humanitarian disaster in Gaza was absurd.
I've just come off the phone at the office in Gaza. I've spoken to UN international staff there. These are not propagandists. These are not people working for Hamas. These are international civil servants who are in Gaza. First of all, the idea that there is not a humanitarian crisis is absurd, and it appalls me to hear anyone saying that international organisations are saying there isn't a humanitarian crisis. International organisations are saying there is a humanitarian crisis. The idea that somehow we are reliant on Hamas for our information is absurd. The organisation for which I work, UNRWA, has approximately 9,000 to 10,000 workers on the ground. They are speaking with the ordinary civilians in Gaza. There is a humanitarian crisis. People are suffering. A quarter of all those being killed now are civilians. Right. So when I hear people say we're doing our best to avoid civilian casualties, that rings very hollow indeed.
And Chris, you were warning, UNRWA was warning about the humanitarian crisis and the percentage of casualties who were civilians even before the ground offensive started last night. What effect is this new phase in the offensive going to have on humanitarian efforts?
Well, we have had to close down just one of our food distribution centres in the north. Unfortunately, we've had to close down 4 of our approximately 20 health centres because of this offensive. Now, I would like to echo the words of the Secretary General, and I would like to ask those delegations in the Security Council who are standing in the way of peace, how many innocent children have got to be killed? How many innocent women have got to be killed before you put your hand up around that horseshoe table and vote for peace? I'd like some answers, because make no mistake, civilians are caught in the way. More innocent children, more innocent babies, more innocent women are very, very likely to be killed. That is a wholly unacceptable situation.
It must be very frustrating for you who work with UNRWA, for all the aid workers that you have been, who have been working in that region. Now that things are getting worse, things are getting more violent, there's even talk of a third phase in this offensive. What do you need to do? What needs to happen to help people, to save them from death?
Well, again, I've spoken to colleagues in Gaza, and what they say is there is a particularly dramatic situation over flour and over wheat. The bakeries in the north of Gaza have simply stopped, and there is a severe, I stress, severe problem over wheat and flour. It will simply run out. People will simply start to get extremely hungry, and we have got to avoid that. Innocent people in Gaza have suffered enough. That message has got to get through to Israel, it's got to get through to those launching the rockets, and of course it's got to get through to the Security Council.
Well, let's look closer at the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. I'm joined now from Jerusalem by Sana Johnson, the regional director of the charity Save the Children. Thank you for joining us. Presumably you agree with Christopher Gunnis there that to say there is no humanitarian crisis is quite ridiculous.
Yeah, I must say that the situation presently in Gaza is catastrophic for children. The situation has been deteriorating the last 18 months, but what we have seen now during this invasion from Israel has even increased that situation. So when it comes to say that we don't face extreme situation for children, it's not really a correct picture. Children of Gaza today are not only under extreme stress, but they are also facing, which they already were, even more malnutrition. We know that a lot of the young babies who are born now are facing immediate death if we will not be able to provide them with proper windows and heat and all of that, which is not available due to closed borders, but also that there is a lack of electricity and gas inside Gaza.
Yeah, we know that some medical cases have been taken out across the Rafah crossing into Egypt, but that hasn't been happening today. I mean, as far as particularly children who need ongoing medical care and babies who need to be kept in incubators and the like, the fact that there's no electricity for a start must make the situation very, very difficult.
It is extremely difficult, and though right now, say, the children have the possibility to create a food distribution with one of our trucks, but what is desperately needed is actually the access of electricity, gas and water, because without that, as you say, children in hospitals, children in homes are living in despair of actually being able to survive. So we have the need for actually humanitarian access, not only for the trucks crossing the borders, but also that the taps are opened up and that we do bring in fuel, and also that the electricity start to flow into Gaza.
Can I ask you, I was in Gaza obviously before all of this started, but one of the things which was very obvious to me was the psychological impact of the blockade and Israeli incursions and the drones in the sky on the development, the emotional development of children there. The fact that there's now a ground offensive going on, the fact that there's a war on Gaza going on, must make the psychological impact much, much worse.
It has. What we know from urban warfare, from other zones where we are operational, and as it was mentioned, even we have seen an urban warfare very lately up in the north of Lebanon, in Nahal Barid, one of the Palestinian camps. We know that children who are in war are always under extreme stress. We know that they will suffer from sleep deprivation, they will have nightmares, they will have the challenge of actually having a childhood. In an urban warfare, where we also know that soldiers will start to walk and have challenges with actually identify, as they say, who is an enemy, that will also create stress on the children, that they will have severe emotional trying to trust adults, because they will not know who is the one they can trust also when they become adults. And also usually in urban warfare, soldiers start to get into family homes unannounced, and that means that children during nights or days can actually face heavily armed soldiers coming into their homes.